Today, we're going to talk about a true revolutionary, a social reformer, a poet, and an absolute pioneer whose work basically laid the foundation for modern women's rights in India. Her name is Savitribai Phule, and trust me, her story is one of incredible courage against, well, literally impossible odds.
But first, let me just ask you something. Who was India's first female teacher? So, does that name ring a bell? If not, hey, you're not alone. And that's exactly what we're here to change today. To really get just how huge Savitribai's achievement was, we have to rewind the clock. We need to understand the world she was born into. This was 19th century India, a society completely bound by rigid, oppressive traditions, especially for women and for those in the lower castes. I mean, life was incredibly restrictive. We're talking about practices like sati, where widows were burned alive on their husband's funeral pyre. We're talking about child marriage being the norm, and a total ban on widow remarriage. And education, oh no! For women and lower castes, that wasn't just discouraged, it was flat out forbidden, period. And look, this wasn't just, the way things were. No, this was a system, written down, documented. Historical texts from the time lay it all out. A deeply ingrained social order where every single aspect of your life, your value, your rights, your future, was decided for you the moment you were born. This was the world Savitribai was about to take on. So, how in the world does a revolution even start in a world like this? Well, a lot of the time, it begins with just a single, quiet act of defiance. For Savitribai, it all started with learning how to read. Just look at this timeline. At only 9 years old, Savitribai, who couldn't read or write, was married off to a 13-year-old boy, Jyotirao Phule. But here's the twist. Jyotirao was different. He was a visionary. He believed in equality, and he saw his wife's incredible potential. So he did something absolutely radical. He started teaching her himself, at home, in secret. That one decision would end up changing the course of Indian history. You have to understand, this was so much more than just learning the alphabet. This was a profound challenge to the entire power structure of the time. It was a quiet act of rebellion that was about to get really, really loud. Because here's the thing, Savitribai and Jyotirao didn't just want education for themselves. They wanted to throw the doors open for every single girl who had been denied it. And pretty soon, their private rebellion became a very public revolution.
Okay, remember this year, 1848. It's so important. Because in 1848, in Pune, Savitribai and Jyotirao Phule did what was considered unthinkable. They opened the very first school for girls in all of India, a school run by the nation's first ever Indian female teacher, Savitribai herself.
And hey, this isn't some made-up legend. We have the source documents from the period that chronicle this incredible journey. They detail how this school got started and how it was the beginning of a movement that would completely transform the nation. It started small, really small. That first class had just 9 students from different castes. But with those 9 girls, Savitribai Phule shattered centuries of tradition that said a girl's place was anywhere but a classroom.
But you know what they say, when you try to change the world pushes back, hard. And for daring to educate girls, Savitribai faced a backlash that wasn't just verbal, it was violent. I want you to just picture your daily commute to work or school. Now imagine it being an actual battlefield. That was her reality. Her short walk to the school she had founded became a daily, terrifying ordeal. Her reality was brutal. She was screamed at, insulted, and people would throw stones, dirt, and even animal dung at her as she walked, every single day. So what did she do? Did she quit? No way. She came up with a solution that was as brilliant as it was resilient, and it all comes down to this number. 2. That's the number of saris she carried with her every day. One to wear on her walk to absorb all the filth and insults, and a second, clean one to change into right before she faced her students so she could teach with dignity. I mean, can you even imagine that level of resolve? And again, this is all backed up. The source texts from the time explicitly describe the constant harassment she endured. That simple act of carrying a second sari, that was an incredible act of defiance. It was her way of saying, you will not break. But here's the thing about Savitribai. Her fight for justice didn't stop at the classroom door. That was just the beginning. Her vision was much, much bigger. The complete liberation of women and lower castes from every form of oppression. Just look at this timeline.
1848, she opens the first school. Just a few years later, she's already being honored by the government for her work. By 1873, she and her husband found a whole society for social reform, and her service, her dedication, it continued right up until her last breath in 1897, when she died from the plague that she contracted while caring for its victims.
And that society they founded, the Satyashodak Samaj, or Truth Seeker Society, was totally revolutionary. Its whole mission was to fight for education, social rights, and political access for the most marginalized people, taking on the caste system head-on.
And as if all that wasn't enough, get this, she was also a celebrated poet. She published her first collection when she was only 23. She used her writing as just another tool in her fight for justice, a way to call out discrimination and inspire a different, more equal world.
So today, all these years later, the revolution she started is still going. Her life and her work are studied in academic journals, and she's recognized as a cornerstone of Indian feminism and social reform. The seeds she planted back in 1848 have grown into a forest.
So this whole incredible story, it really leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? She fought for the key, education, to unlock human potential in a world that desperately tried to keep it locked away. It makes you think, right? Who's holding those keys in our world today, and who is still fighting just to get a copy?